Can you even believe it's time once again for the O Wrestling Podcast? I'm your host, CW. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to hit that bell on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcasting app. I would also greatly appreciate if you guys left some comments so I know that you're listening. Leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. It does help. And tell a friend or two about this 10-minute podcast about wrestling. Today, we're talking about a hot take on the Attitude Era. So I was on Reddit for no reason particular, looking for wrestling topics. That's the reason. And I said, what's something that I think, what did I write? What is a topic in wrestling that fans cannot agree on? All right. And what came up was hot takes on on professional wrestling. So I said, hell, let's click that. And one of them was the Attitude Era is beloved, but it's not known for good wrestling. Something like that. Whereas you don't remember the Attitude Era or any particular match in the Attitude Era. You just remember the spectacle of it. And I stopped and I said, let me think back to matches in the Attitude Era. And I'm going to be honest, I couldn't nail down a specific one. I remember bits and pieces of, gimmicks and, people's entrances going to matches, but the matches themselves don't really click in my mind. So I'm about 80% on the side of that quote unquote hot take. The Attitude Era was bombastic. It was loud. It was smoky. If you go back and watch any of the Attitude Era, for some reason, everything's smoky because there was so much pyro. All the arenas were really packed, super tight. And again, this is the era of Stone Cold where he was selling out arenas before, months in advance. So people were just packed like sardines. It was, super tight. The ring was super close to the barriers. It's a different time. But I don't remember matches. I remember spots and I remember segments. So, you remember Stone Cold in the beer truck, or you remember anytime Al Snow's music hit or Goldust music's hit. You remember bits and pieces of Mankind matches when he would go absolutely apeshit and hurt himself, basically. I remember Steve Blackman, right? That's such an obscure reference, but Steve Blackman was one of the few dudes I remember going, this guy does not belong in WWE. His style was just so goofy. And I look back on it now and it really did feel like the original UFC, where there was just random styles that would just be thrown together and they would have a match and things just didn't mesh. Steve Blackman was that guy. But as I went through my brain pan to think of matches in the Attitude Era, there's only one real standout Attitude Era thing that jumped out at me, and that is the video games. WWF Warzone, WWF Attitude. I remember matches from those games way more fondly and vividly than I do any match in the Attitude Era. Granted, I was playing the games with my best friend, and our minds, this is an odd road to go down, but excuse me, when you meet somebody who is kind of your, not opposite, but your doppelganger in a sense, there is, you tend to have fun in ways that you didn't think you'd ever have fun. So let's take WWF Attitude, for example. I've had some of the greatest video game moments in that game playing with Dad's First Time. Shout out Dad's First Time. And we enjoyed very strange aspects of the game. One being the hardcore matches. Now, I know people of course you love hardcore matches. They're great. But there was one thing in the hardcore match that made us giggle uncontrollably, no joke, for hours. It was a weapon in the game. It was the microphone. Whenever you would pick up the microphone and you would hit someone with the microphone, it would make this incredibly annoying, hilarious sound. I can't do it because, one, it'll hurt my throat, and two, I wouldn't do it justice. So I would suggest going to look it up on YouTube. Just type in WWF Attitude Hardcore Match Microphone or something. I'm sure something will pop up. But we would spend literal hours cycling through wrestlers in a hardcore match to just bust each other in the face with a microphone and just giggle. I hope for everyone who's younger than me, hell, I hope for everyone who's older than me right now, if you're blessed to have a friend that you can share those goofy moments with. There's nothing better in life than having those types of moments with someone who genuinely enjoys it as much as you do. Let's put it that way. There's a sentimental note for you. Let's move on from that. But the Attitude Era really was predicated on big segments, big spots, and those PlayStation video games, right? If you grew up in that era, you 100% had one of those wrestling games. I can't remember what the other systems had. Was it No Mercy? It was No Mercy, right? For N64 before that. And then I don't remember the other ones that came out around the same time as Warzone. But for me, Warzone and Attitude, which were fairly similar, the same way you get kind of the 2K samey stuff every year, Warzone and Attitude were fairly similar, but Attitude did have a step in the right direction on its way to becoming SmackDown. It fixed the entrances, it had better models, but it remained, both of them had the microphone. That was the thing, right? And just beating each other up in a hardcore match. I remember all those matches incredibly well. And I think one of the SmackDown games, once the SmackDown games came, I think they took that out, which was a huge disappointment for me. Because, hell, does 2K have hardcore matches? I don't think they're called hardcore matches. Free-for-all, brawl-for-all, I don't remember what they're called. But the old school hardcore matches with the hardcore title, that's what I remember in those games. Thinking back on any match in the Attitude Era, honestly, I can't pick out one that I'm like, that one sticks right in my mind. What I do remember is tag teams as well, like Al Snow and Steve Blackman, their pairing, which was strange. They had the odd couple thing going. That's another thing in WWE. They have a lot of odd couples, Booker T and Goldust, Tajiri and William Regal. The odd couple thing really does work in professional wrestling, and Al Snow and Steve Blackman was one of the best. Their wrestling styles did not match up at all. Their personalities did not match up at all. But I remember vividly them coming to the ring together. Al Snow going bananas with head, and Steve Blackman being very, very stoic and very serious walking to the ring. I think that it's not a hot take, but I think the Attitude Era is more known for entrances. They had incredible entrances. Go back and watch matches from the Attitude Era. The entrances were incredible. I'm thinking back to the Big Show. I don't know if this was the Attitude Era specifically, but just talking about entrances, him walking and having to duck underneath the Titantron, iconic. Or I mean, you can also point to him pulling the Titantron down for Stone Cold. That is an Attitude Era thing. But that's what I mean. Like, the Attitude Era was really predicated on entrances, segments, backstage stuff. But the matches, I can't, for the life of me, pick out one. So if you know a match from the Attitude Era that was incredible, please let me know in the comments. Or if there's anything about the Attitude Era you loved and you want to talk about, let me know. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Don't you forget to subscribe. Don't you forget to tell a friend. And don't you ever forget.
I'm your friend, but if I ever see you in the ring, I can beat you. Don't you know? Yeah.